O Me, O Life by Walt Whitman. O me, O life, of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, of myself forever reproaching myself, for who more foolish than I, and who more faithless, of eyes that vainly crave the light of the object's mean, of the struggle ever renewed, of the poor results of all, of the plodding and sordid crowds I see around me, of the empty and useless years of the rest, with the rest me intertwined. The question, O me, so sad recurring, what good amid these, O me, O life? Answer, that you are here, that life exists, and identity, that the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse.
I chose O Me, O Life for many reasons. As a high school student who was constantly thinking about college and the future, it is not only interesting to think about my own future individually, but the future of the world as a whole. Who will become our future world leaders? How will our planet be different from what it is today? I also love Whitman's message that anyone can make a difference. Age, race, and wealth have no advantage because just simply existing gives everyone an equal opportunity to make an impact. Walt Whitman was born on May 31, 1819 in West Hills, Long Island, New York. When Walt Whitman was 11, his father pulled him out of school so he could work and help his family financially. Whitman soon found employment in the printing business, and when he was 17, Whitman began teaching and landed his first job in a one-room schoolhouse in Long Island. He continued to teach for another 5 years until he set his sights on journalism in 1841. Whitman picked up small jobs working on newspapers for several years. However, he began expressing radical positions on women's property rights, immigration, and labor issues, getting him fired from 7 different newspapers. In the spring of 1855, Whitman self-published a collection of 12 poems titled Leaves of Grass. However, Whitman could only afford to print 795 copies of the book. Leaves of Grass was far different from typical poetry that America was comfortable with. Traditional rhyme and meter were unused as Whitman introduced America to first-person poetry. The following year, Whitman published a revised edition of Leaves of Grass with 33 poems, including a new piece, Crossing Brooklyn Ferry. Like its earlier edition, the second version of Leaves of Grass failed to gain much attention, but in 1860, a Boston publisher issued a third edition of Leaves of Grass. Whitman published a new collection during the Civil War called Drum Taps, which represented a more somber realization of what the Civil War meant for those in the thick of it. In January of 1873, Whitman suffered a stroke that left him partially paralyzed, and he decided to relocate to Camden, New Jersey to live with his brother George. Over the next 2 decades, Whitman continued to tinker with Leaves of Grass. An 1882 edition of the collection earned the poet some fresh newspaper coverage. On March 26, 1892, Walt Whitman passed away in Camden. He was buried in Camden's Harley Cemetery. Whitman's purpose in O Me, O Life is to remind people that everyone has the chance to make a difference in the world. He begins his poem by describing the somber events that he witnesses each day, such as the plodding and sordid crowds that he sees, and then asks himself, where's the beauty in these sad realities? He answers his own question by saying that just simply existing is beautiful, and that because you exist, you have the right to make an impact. You have the right and the duty to turn the world's sadness into its glory. This poem does not have any form, meter, or rhythm because it is written in Whitman's unique free verse. His unpredictable and spontaneous lines emphasize the importance of standing out from the crowd. In his poem, Whitman urges his readers to make a difference and to raise their voices instead of fearfully silencing them. Whitman's poetic technique to break traditional poetry rules supports his message of being unafraid to stand up for what you personally believe in and to dutifully rebel against the rules and laws you disagree with. In the start of the piece, Whitman uses a figurative language device called anaphora, where he repeats the same phrase or word in multiple lines. He repeats the word of 5 times as he introduces different examples of horrible realities and situations. This brings further attention to the difficult struggles that everyone faces throughout life and ultimately makes the reader question the beauty in life. However, the most profound example of figurative language in Whitman's poem is in the very last line. Whitman states, "That the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse." Here he is using a metaphor by talking about life as if it is a play, and that contributing to the world is as if you are writing a verse in the production. In that line, he sums up the entire meaning of the poem and brings it full circle. He leaves the reader feeling empowered by the art of human expression and the simple idea of changing the world for the better. O Me, O Life is a wonderful and beautiful poem that speaks about the miracle of existence. So many people focus on leaving a legacy behind, while in this poem, Whitman is simply thankful for existing at all. He teaches the readers that everyone has the right, opportunity, and duty to change the world and to make it a more peaceful place. He teaches the readers that existence and life are privileges and that they should be fully taken advantage of by those who are lucky enough to obtain them at all.